Well, I finally did it. Contra 3 was now officially off my bucket list. I sucked it up and laid my demons to rest. And although aesthetically it was a beautiful game through and through, still, I was a tad overwhelmed by the bitter end. It felt as if these events paid homage to the first two entries more so than giving us a true sequel. This might have been a big reason why I moved on from Contra shortly after. These were experimental times, and I wasn't looking to fork over another $60 for experimental at best. Yet, with the endless capabilities of the Super NES, what if the Alien Wars had been expanded upon a bit more with a far richer story arc and character development? Just imagine the ramifications these events might have on humanity going forward. How would society adapt, and what big players and pawns would rise to power in the fallout? Well, apparently the answers were right under my nose the entire time. Yep, under the codename Contra Hard Corps. Man, the Super NES and Sega Genesis were a true tandem. The Super NES sort of set the pace early on, while the Genesis always answered with a counterpunch of their own, bringing the very best out of both, resulting in many of my personal wishes becoming fulfilled, and thus, we now travel 5 years into the future to discover the ramifications that Gava's war would have on mankind. After Balan Lands once again put a halt to Gava's New World Order, the aftermath dealt society a fatal blow, leaving mankind needing more than just time to heal, as the inquisitive nature of man soon unearthed discovery that would shatter a once thriving nation. An alien cell recovered 5 years prior would now be researched for reverse engineering due to the radical nature of its genetic makeup. However, these studies would soon go awry, as a terrorist organization rose through the ranks now desired to harness the lifeform's power for their own nefarious gain. With the Earth now in crisis, the Federation constructed a new generation of Contra Elite. This wasn't just any ordinary mercenary team. Hell nah, this was the Hard Corps unit, a squad of 4 of the absolute finest warriors, each equipped with their own unique skill set, bearing arms at the highest degree. This squad was locked and loaded for whatever comes their way. Contra Hard Corps really broke the mold for me. In fact, this might be my favorite Contra to this day. This in large is due to the brilliance of its craft. The game is chock full of clever play mechanics and an arsenal of unique design choices that sets this game a tier above the rest. You can now shuffle between 1 of 4 team members, each bearing their own unique set of skills to take into battle. Don't like what you see? Then you can quite literally switch characters at each crossroads, as each of these 4 commandos come packed in 4 unique arms with a 5th slot reserved for your trusty hand grenades. Yeah, let that set in for a moment. Trust me, we'll come back to them. That's not all. No. Hard Corps takes all the gunslinging and wall-climbing attributes of the Alien Wars and adds some whipped cream and a cherry on top. These tasty toppings come in the form of the slide technique, which when paired with our new extras, packs on an additional layer of depth. So what I'm really trying to say is this is my Mega Man 3 of the Contra series, only with the time restraints removed. The story elements presented are light years ahead for its time, presenting players with branching pathways for exploration and in-game cutscenes chock full of spicy dialect that could easily turn Hard Corps into its own feature-length flick. Hell, the Japanese box art looks more like an old-school OVA than a Contra game. I mean, I really am in love with the artistic direction. I'm just gonna leave this here for a second and let this scene simmer for a bit. Now, the reason I wanted to drive home the story elements wasn't only for the great in-game mission briefings and character development. What makes this so compelling is how the story diverges depending on the choices you make when in the heat of the moment. Every decision you make impacts your outcome, placing you on a different path as a result. I'm going to try to illustrate things here with my own outlined map for victory. As you can see, we start each of our commandos out on the initial battlefront, only for our path to diverge depending on our choices, leading us to 6 potential endings. At least, that's what I discovered. Keep in mind, this is a big adventure, so in the event you need to call in backup, you don't gotta reset the game or call your buddy to schedule a meetup time. When he gets here, you can jump in at any time, so just be ready. Oh, and by the way, those insufferable top-down stages have been removed. Yeah, Konami must have got the memo and said, let's just do what we do best, run and gun the shit out of the opposition, as you now do so with clever new event missions, navigating through the many new areas. It's pretty refreshing traveling through them, taking to the lands, sea and sky in tactile fashion. Funny enough, the Japanese version of Hard Corps gave players a health bar, a series first I believe. Man, can US players ever catch a break? Well, if that old school ass whooping is too much, you could always just import a Mega Drive, I guess. But still, we're going in down and dirty this time, with the OG Genesis release, so without further ado, let's take a good look at the new hires and see what they're really made of. The first of our new recruits is known around these parts as Ray Powered, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed commando that in my opinion is the Charlie Nash to Bill Reiser's Guile. Ray grew up in the inner city slums, so he knows the back roads of Neo City like no other. He once led a group of ragtag delinquents, serving as a mentor of sorts to the city youth. Wielding the Vulcan laser, he now puts those street smarts to use, taking back his city as a proud member of the Hard Corps team. He's got a sick arsenal to say the least, including the classic spread and homing attack for a well-rounded arsenal, capable of persuading the hardest of hardcore rebel leaders. Next on the block is Sheena Intranzi, soft on the eyes yet fierce in combat. She rocks the Genocide Vulcan, specializing in jungle warfare, so she's able to maneuver the deadliest of terrains. She's a silent killer with an exceptional arsenal ranging from the shower crash to a pair of dueling laser cannons. The third commando is the infamous Wolfman Fang. Let me tell you, the dude has some real swagger. He's got a killer fashion sense, dripping in the latest cybernetics that would make Jax think twice before throwing hands. He's well trained in hand-to-hand combat, so his cybernetics will give you an advantage in close range, especially after adopting the power punch technique. I'm also in love with the Psychic Blaster, a charged shot that puts me right in my Blue Bomber feels. He sports the Beast Shooter that will light up any and all opposition standing in his path. Finally, we have the future of AI, the CX-1 DA300, a bite-sized combat robot, but his friends just call him Brownie. He packs a big personality, along with a versatile toolset that makes this tiny metal sidekick the most advanced weapon of war. He will take to the air with his victory cannon, hovering about while raining down a fiery spread atop his opponents. He's got a large assortment of firepower, including the Gemini and Shield Crashers. He'll even take some recreational time out of his day to show off his talents, walking his trusty EM yo-yo. Seriously, what can't this little guy do? With our new team assembled, it's time to get report from HQ. This couldn't come at a better time too, as a security breach occurs, causing the mechanical infantry and mobile units stationed throughout the city to go rogue. The streets are infested with metallic mavericks that soon enough seal their fate, decommissioned by the steel bumper of our heavy-barreled squad car. With no time to spare, we take to the streets, putting our new toys to good use. The chaos unleashes from the very start, as Judgment Day now appears inevitable. Leading a high-speed assault into the heart of the city, you hit the ground running for some supercharged moments. Soon enough, you'll be playing a killer game of hopscotch across a collapsing superhighway, picking off the many infantry bots while the earth quickly erupts beneath. And with little time to spare, you need not hesitate, just aim and let loose. Every stretch feels like it might be your last, as enemies quickly emerge from the erupting debris. Hard Corps just has this extra level of polish and detail woven throughout every scene, and it's easy to see how it pushes the very limits of its home hardware. This entire opener is just oozing with creativity, as each scene becomes filled with cinematic events that foreshadows the many things to come. Enemies begin pacing about the backgrounds, tearing it up across the city, just long enough to set their sights on our heroes. This moment says it all, as flames engulf your surroundings, bringing new life to the scene. Just when you think the act is closing out, a mobile suit quickly deploys down from the rooftops for a quick back and forth scuffle. You learn the rules of the road early on, as this assassination attempt will begin with a series of electrically charged rounds. Things will only escalate as the mech's upper torso quickly detaches at the hip, spinning about to pick you off. He switches things up from time to time, charging up for a couple rocket punches when you least expect it. Use your platforms to your advantage, evading with finesse till you take this heavy scrap heap offline. You'll be greeted by the man they call Deadeye Joe, a hired assassin rebuilt for combat out of the most advanced cybernetics. It appears a hacker has been in the works behind the scenes, and Joe's not willing to just hand over intel either, now challenging you to follow him in pursuit. However, just as you begin to make a move, you receive a distress call from Dr. Geo, informing our heroes that the research center is currently under attack by a rogue organization. You now have to make a choice: follow in pursuit of Joe, or make a detour to save the center. Reaching the research center on time won't be an easy task. Thankfully, backup arrives to lend a hand as the stage sets the pace early. Armored tankers and jet crafts set their sights on you as you mount yourself firmly to the plane's undercarriage, hanging on for dear life. Hold strong and fire back when ready. Things will only escalate as the plane's altitude raises, as do the stakes, finding yourself battling atop this wild craft to take back the skies. Who exactly put this hit out, and at what price, because you got anything and everything headed your way, looking to cash in the bounty. You inevitably take a hit, now emergency landing right outside the research center. You soon get the scoop on all the crazy. It appears the research center has been studying the aforementioned alien cell. Well shit, I guess Gava laid the golden egg after all, and now we gotta pay the price. However, you won't be getting any further without a fight, because it's a rat race to reach the cell first. This is where having a full arsenal to shuffle through really comes in handy. Take them down in tactile fashion until you reach the room securing the alien cell. Unfortunately, things take a toll for the worse, as our heroes arrive late to the party, with the cell now replaced by a giant animatronic, unhinged and let loose on the center. This dude packs a heavy punch, dropping in for a 1-2 combination, followed by a barrage of synchronized explosives. Talk about playing with your food. This thing will begin puppeteering his explosives as they soon come alive to follow your pursuit. The key is sticking to the sides of the room long enough to get accustomed to their movement patterns. Clear each wave out as they come and fire when ready. Play keep away for just a few rounds and your score a speedy victory. In the aftermath of said heist, you get a bit more intel from HQ on our new cyberbully plaguing the city. He goes by the alias Neumann Cascade, a skilled hacker who infiltrated the military's computer system as a mere distraction to steal the alien cell. What his motives are is still unclear, but one thing is for sure, you need to move quickly as his whereabouts track back to the local junkyard, searching him out scrap by scrap. Neumann's got connections too, and you initially get acquainted to the welcome party. The king of the slums sends his motorized hellhounds your way for an ambush. Take your time and pick them off one by one as they roll up on you. The scrapyard is covered in booby traps, so keep your distance as things don't seem what they appear to be. You find a secret entrance buried under his collection of filth, leading you down to his chambers below. Neumann will plead with you at first, but ultimately gets the upper hand, utilizing his virtual reality simulator to overcome you with his many optical illusions. This might be my favorite fight of the game. The entire round is filled with fun mini-bosses connected across the Milky Way galaxy. The room will take new shape, connecting the many stars of the night skies into deadly weapons. Eventually, Neumann will switch the simulation up with a collection of electrically charged tiles to form his many cyber attacks. This is where the Genesis hardware shines, and I knew at this moment there was something exceptional about this game. After putting our keyboard warrior to bed, he'll confess, this was merely a payday from a higher power. But who? Who would be behind an attack to this degree? Enter Colonel Bahamut, a hero of the Alien Wars that mysteriously went rogue 2 years prior after attempting to overthrow the government. Seeking power, he searches out the alien cell to form his own regime. With our hacker detained, a clear path to the Colonel lies just beyond a neighboring tropical reserve filled with unknown inhabitants. It appears someone's been experimenting on the local wildlife. As its ecosystem becomes more and more disturbed the deeper you venture inward. Each stage of Contra Hard Corps finds clever new ways to incorporate gameplay ideas into the mix. There's tons of tiny events that makes each section feel like an episodic adventure. This is where Hard Corps begins to win you over. The stages are a stretch, full of mini gauntlets mixed throughout that can be approached in a variety of ways. Certain characters do better in certain terrains, dependent on their weapons and attributes. In a way, this is key to a solid speedrun. Each character approaches these challenges in their own way, keeping the gameplay fresh. There's plenty moments that find you doubting survival, only to switch up the gunplay, achieving your second wind. Your rematch with Joe is a true testament to this craft, going through the motions, battling across the Colonel's secret bunker. Just when you think you've wrapped things up, Joe seems to always have another trick up his sleeve, and soon enough, his metal slug takes new shape, reforming the battle once more. It's moments like this that gets me in the feels. Being tested early on for a triumphant comeback, mastering Joe's moveset and besting him in battle, forced to now retreat to fight another day. You soon discover you're in over your head. The curtains pull back as it appears a double cross has been in the works the entire time. The Colonel draws forth, now alongside Dr. Geo, who too appears obsessed with the alien cell, aligning himself with the Colonel to fulfill his own evil genius intent. It appears you're in a real pinch, as only two opportunities present themselves. Do we lay down like a dog, or fight to see another day? Well, this wouldn't be a true hero story if we back down now, as you're quickly plummeted below, becoming lunch for the Mad Doctor's latest test subjects. This entire round is a gauntlet of twisted experiments. The Doctor will begin with some small gene splices, abominations made from the local wildlife, each new creature looking more hideous than the next. For the most part, these fights are a breeze, as the budget surgeon really isn't qualified for the job to begin with. However, by the end of this gauntlet, he'll design a true creature of nightmares, now awake and itching for a meal, devouring its creator right out of the oven. Fed and fueled, this thing lunges towards you, stretching its limbs for a quick kill. Now, after putting Geo's Little Shop of Horrors out of business, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on our journey thus far. Depending on how you play your cards, will ultimately lead you down your own path to victory. It might not be pretty, but sometimes you gotta just deal with your consequences. That's the beauty of this little gem. You're in complete control, and these actions will change each character's fate. Although the ultimate goal is preventing the Colonel from using the alien cell for his own nefarious plans, events can lead you well off the beaten path. Let's just say you chose to go after Joe earlier on, instead of saving the research center. These actions will affect future events, leading to a timeline where the alien cell breaks loose in the lab, harvesting its surroundings to create its own brood, consisting of many new and old alien offspring. The alien queen that rules over the roost in this timeline is a series first. Funny enough, she sorta resembles the same species that eventually birthed Gava. And since these events occurred 5 years after the Alien Wars, it's fun to speculate the possibilities here, especially considering the many tests Geo conducted in his laboratory. Every timeline split is well worth a visit. Each includes unique battles with Joe that not only fleshes out his character development, but introduces you to unique modes of play. After 6 playthroughs, I don't think you could ask for a better rival than Deadeye Joe. You can ultimately find your way back to the alien cell, now ill-fated to becoming the ultimate bioweapon that the Colonel soon lets loose on the world. A climactic finale that will test your wits through a series of challenging bullet hells. Each scenario feels like some sort of sequel in their own right. Like any good movie franchise, each installment has ramifications to prior events. It's something that is so unique to Hard Corps, there's nothing in the series quite like it. Every path leads you to new destinations, filled with creative alien encounters which mutate and evolve differently due to circumstances. Hell, in one scenario, the Colonel will even fuse with the alien, now becoming the ultimate life form. This battle is batshit crazy, as the Colonel goes through a series of thrilling transformations. Although this may not be the best outcome for timeline's sake, this sequence feels like the true final big bad of Hard Corps. Hey, remember earlier how we dug our way through the junkyard in pursuit of that sleazeball Neumann? Well, while searching out his underground bunker, you may encounter a mysterious figure who persuades you to enter his battle arena. Here you go through a series of the most bizarre battles, and even discover the legendary Simondo Belmont, trapped in his own infinite corridor. A Contra Castlevania crossover? Yo, sign me up. Well, things only get more bizarre, as a reward for surviving this gauntlet comes by a space-time rift, creating a wormhole that sucks you through, where you eventually become ruler of your own realm alongside your blushing bride-to-be. No, till death do you part, remember? However, sticking to the script early finds the Colonel now fleeing to his secret base of operations. Time to take to the seas as you board a speedboat on your way to the Colonel's island resort. It must be high tide today because there's some nautical nonsense brewing, looking to drag you below to the seafloor. You find yourself battling a shape-shifting cybernetic trio, which follows you and your Motoroid as you touch down on the island's runway. This trio has a Triforce offense that reassembles into various boss battles. As the fight wages forth, the trio will continue shuffling back and forth, and you'll need to do the same with your weaponry, discovering their many weak points, making this one of the more challenging exchanges of this timeline. When you reach the Colonel, you're square off in a heated exchange. Although you stopped him at each turn, the Colonel still pleads you join his cause. Here you again have a choice: join him in his fight or die a warrior's death. Again, the fate of your story can drastically change, as joining the Colonel will find you standing alongside your sinister new leader as the city around you burns, concluded with a scene of mankind succumbing to an age of darkness. However, taking the righteous path finds you battling it out with the Colonel as he equips his latest gadgets for a deadly duel to the death. The Colonel is quick on his feet, darting across the room while using his grappling hook to pull the house down around you. If he's not trying to hook you in, then he's knocking you out with a series of airstrikes. As the battle comes to a climax, the Colonel will inevitably lay at your feet. In his dying breath, he still seeks to have the last laugh, informing you a missile has been launched, armed with the newly acquired alien cell. Things now open to an action-packed finale, taking flight across a series of launches as you look to secure the alien cell. However, as you attempt to do so, Joe will appear once more for a final standoff. Pivot across each missile while Joe hovers back and forth. By now you'll be used to this tomfoolery, and he'll realize too this is bigger than the two of you, as his jetpack implodes, sending him spiraling back to Earth. Reaching the missile is just the tip of the iceberg. It appears whatever was inside the cell has grown and multiplied into tiny hatchlings, breaking through the exterior chamber of this speeding bullet, looking to stop your ascent. You eventually reach the rocket's peak, where a large worm-like alien emerges, appearing to protect whatever lies beneath it. Putting it to rest exposes the alien cell, which is ready to stretch its newborn limbs. This might be the most grotesque alien to date. Perhaps Geo did some early experimentation on this thing, now covered in fused humanoid faces and a snake-like tail that regurgitates larvae down into the battlefield. Fire away at the tail, preventing this sucker from spewing more of its nonsense. After disarming the limbs, the upper heads are merely decor at this point, more unsettling on the eyes than anything. Keep a steady rhythm going, aiming in on the tail the entire time, and in moments, this freaky fetus will go up in smoke. Moments after the Federation swoops in, just in the nick of time to scoop you up as the missile implodes high into the ether, saving humanity and closing out the alien wars for now. Looking back through our many hard-fought battles, our team now celebrates, solidifying their positions among the many Contra Elite, protectors of their people whom saved this very plane many moons ago. Contra Hard Corps managed to take an already superb run-and-gun formula and add some additional layers of depth one could only possibly imagine. The game gave us an exceptional new cast that not only complemented one another through story and lore, but managed to round the others out through their many diverse skill sets. I loved experimenting with the many setups as I embarked on each new journey, filled with various twists and turns that had me switching up my playstyles as each fork in the road arose. The game had this distinct flavor about it that just resonated with me from the start. This was complemented by its colorful cast of characters that would each further develop as the many story arcs unfolded. Each challenge presented gave these role players their own purpose and stylized modes of play. Contra Hard Corps is just one of those games that sorta creeps up on you the more you experiment with it. It's a true sleeper title and one which had me briefly put the controller down, only to call a buddy and say, hey listen, I got something for us to play through next Friday night, so come through. It's become my personal favorite in this series, and shockingly, for a spin-off title, has the total package, filled with endless possibilities and tiny Easter eggs scattered about, that makes the entire experience that much more charming. However, with the 4 original home Contra releases now completed, I'd like to tie up any loose ends before putting my first Contra marathon to bed. This in fact can only be done by busting out a certain little handheld and pushing it to its very limits, as we rally the troops one more time for a pint-sized operation. Operation, see you there, gang.